Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's May 6, 2025. Please note this event is being recorded. The recording will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who's on Zoom, please feel free to use the chat window. This is a great way to connect with other people who are on the call today. Go ahead and put in your name, what you're looking for, what you do, what you're looking for, target companies, and your contact information, and connect with other people who are on the call. You never know who may be able to help you. Also, if you have any questions for our speaker today, please enter in the chat window, and I'll be sure to ask our speaker as we take a break. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. We've got a great speaker coming up this Friday, and I'll tell you about him at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIC Crew. For more information, just go to dallaspicrew.com. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn on a rotating basis every month. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's a career consultant. He's been recruiting people for many, many years. And today he's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results. So Locke, thank you for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you. And your mic is muted.
Have you shared your screen?
There we go. Yep, you should be able to share screen.
No. What's going on, Jeff? The goblin's got me again. So
Yeah, just click on from beginning.
there we go. Thank you for solving those technical problems. Jeff and I have been working, 5 years now, and I still haven't solved how to do it. So
one day we'll figure it out.
One day you'll figure it out. So anyway, I want to thank Jeff for doing that. People ask sometimes why you do this and why Jeff does this, because we are volunteer, but I've been helped in my career. It's 42 years actually in recruiting before I retired from Oracle in 2010, and 23 years in career consulting, which I started actually in 2001 with our church when they asked me to start a program for those in job and career transition. And it's continued as a volunteer until 2013, when Mullen International, an outplacement firm out of New York, said, you've been working as a volunteer for these 12 plus years. Would you like to try it on contract for 90 days, which I did, and it lasted for 4 years and 90 days before Mullen sold out to Lee Heck Harrison. Lee Heck Harrison picked me up a month later, and I was with them for 2 years. And people say, well, during these times, did you have anything like unemployment? And that's where the people have helped me. I've been unemployed at least 5 times with layoffs. One of those was actually a firing, but it was considered a layoff included by Texas Workforce Commission. So each of those times has been interesting because it required me to dig deep into who I am and to think about it. One of those times we moved from California to Texas. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. And before we moved, I interviewed with 19 companies. 17 or 16 said, no, we don't have anything. We don't have a match. 2 of them said, well, we're interested, but we'll have to get back to you. And one of them made me an offer and brought me to Texas, which is kind of interesting. So 8 months later, I was laid off and again was faced with a situation of what do I do about making my mortgage payment? So one of the things I did, and I'll encourage you to do that, let your financial institution, if you have a loan, let them know what your status is. I said to them that I was unemployed. I didn't expect to miss a payment for my mortgage, but I wanted them to know what my status is. If you can let them know up front on these kind of situations, they're more than willing to be patient with you if you have difficulty making a payment. With that having been said, I want to talk about that reliance on the Lord. He's been my faithful companion during those times of unemployment, and even today when I'm employed or not employed or partially employed. Be pleased, blessed be the Lord, for day after day he bears our burdens. Because with your time when you're unemployed, you're going to have some burdens that you may go through. So, and that's one of the things I want to talk about with that. Again, we'll ask the question, why are you using LinkedIn? Some of you are using it for job hunting. Some of you are doing it because somebody said to use it. And again, why are you using? Well, the main reason that people use it is there's 1 billion users on it worldwide. 180 million of those are in the United States. And it's the most important tool in the recruiter's toolbox. It's said that 95% of recruiters actually use LinkedIn to find and source candidates. So that's a pretty good reason to get found out there. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is how do you get found on your LinkedIn profile? And that's part of the talk. And then how do you find jobs on your LinkedIn, which is the other part of what we're going to talk about. One commentary from a LinkedIn user that landed a job is, LinkedIn has been an irreplaceable tool in my job search. The ability to show employers the exact experience and skills that I have on my profile is what ultimately helped me get a job. And again, what you can do on LinkedIn, you actually have more space than you do on a simple resume, which are generally limited to about 2 pages. The About section on your LinkedIn has 2,000 characters that you get to play with, and your employment section can go on. I think it will show up to about 6 before it goes on to click the others that are on your career. So what are we talking about today? Well, one, we're going to take a look at your profile and your headline and open to work sections. We're going to take a look at your back dashboard, which many of you may not be using, but you should be. Your about section is probably one of the more used sections. Your professional work history, your skills, and your endorsements. And then how are you optimizing your profile? There's some things that you could do to do that. And then taking a look at how professional recruiters and recruiters for search firms actually do a search, and searching for jobs for yourself, and then some homework for you to do. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, what does your LinkedIn profile attract hiring managers and recruiters' attention? It's the first impression that they have of you, and so it's the one that you want to put forth first, that first step, if you will. So what is it all about? It all starts with your profile. This is an older version of my profile. I've only limited my headline, which is this area right down in here, to 120 characters. LinkedIn has since expanded that to 220 characters that you can work with. Notice some other things about my background there. This is the first things that recruiters see. There's a banner shot. There's my headshot. There's my name. There's also the headline that I mentioned, the open to work section, which in this sense is limited to recruiters. That's one of the options that you have. The first things that people see. And what you're trying to get them to do is to click through and look for more. So with that having been said, let's look at that. Does your profile look like an old rusty car because of neglect? Again, if you aren't paying attention or updating your profile periodically, and I suggest at least doing something on it at least once a week, so that it gets refreshed in the stack when the algorithm is run on a LinkedIn search. It's the most important thing that people are going to see. It has a first impression. And if your headline is the only thing that they see about you, what will it say about you? Does it address the recruiter's needs and what the recruiters care about? You have 6 to 10 seconds to take a look at my profile and what's important. That's how much time recruiters actually spend thumbing through or looking through profiles. Some of the dating applications you can thumb through and just thumb through on your touch screen to look at the next profile. Again, I've got the open to work banner open here on me from about 9 o'clock around to 5 o'clock. It has some words and allows you to do some other things there. And does your profile actually address the needs of your target market? Do you even know what your target market is? Those are questions that you need to know about who you're looking for. So what we want to talk about today is completing your profile. Again, what you need to have on that to increase your rankings when you get through with that on LinkedIn is your professional headshot, a background banner shot. Another thing that you want to have on that is a headline. Does it attract the people that you're looking for? Does it attract their attention? Open to work, again, under your headline to list additional titles. Your about section, it's an overview of your career, and you should highlight your accomplishments and use keywords from your profession. Contact information, I think it's vitally important that you have your contact information on the first line of your about section, your email and your phone number. It could be in your banner shot, it could be at the bottom of your about section, but when people look at your about section, all they see is 1 or 2 lines. So if recruiters have to look further for it, they may not actually do that. Yeah, your experience section, if you have an unusual job title, I know when I was with Rockwell Microelectronics out in California, we had some unusual job titles because it was a technology firm. And some of those titles were member of technical staff 3. Now, that doesn't describe the duties that you had. So use the title that's generally recognized in industry, okay, in parentheses. And do stress your results. Again, keywords for your profession. We're going to show you how to find those if you don't know what those are. And endorsements, you want those if possible. And all too often on people's profile, all I see is their education when they got it, when they may have graduated from school 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. They don't talk about the awards they may have received, certifications they've been granted, professional development to keep up with technology in their field, and recommendations for coworkers. That's like a letter of recommendation from a former boss or somebody that worked with you. Another verse of scripture that's kind of important to me is from Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Because I know some of the times after I'd come home from an interview or interviewed on the phone, and it was a downer, and they said, no, I don't think we've got a match. And those are the times when I needed some encouragement. Yeah, getting back to your headline, because that's where it all starts. Think about a movie marquee. Some of the theaters are doing away with marquees today, but if the movie title is not on a marquee of the theater, you're probably not going to attend that movie theater to see the movie that you want. So does it tell who you are? Does it identify what you do? And is your headline a grabber? Does it stand out? Well, here are some sample headlines. I've kind of gathered these together on one slide. Unemployed and retired, nothing wrong with those. They're truthful. But again, they're not the most positive foot that you can put forward. Seeking new opportunity is true, but it doesn't say much. It doesn't say what you're looking for. Formerly a VP of Finance has the negative connotation of formerly. How long has this VP of Finance been out of work? That's a question the recruiters ask in their mind. An experienced digital design engineer seeking new opportunity, more descriptive, but again, it could be even more descriptive than that. The next one, social media strategist and content manager seeking a new opportunity, has print and digital media experience, public relations experience, marketing and corporate communications. That's a pretty solid headline. Some of the others below that are kind of succinct, like supply chain, procurement, purchasing. But again, that may be enough of a key that a recruiter is going to look further. Same thing with senior accountant, general ledger, financial reporting and cost. Generally, you're going to want to have about 220 characters that you have to play with. So to do that. And recruiters prefer someone who has done the job before, so they'll target specific titles. Use the traditional titles for the work that you've done. Okay. Another thing that you can do, and this is something that somebody passed along to me, is to add adjectives in your headline. It doesn't have to be just nouns to describe who you are and what you want. If you want a copy of this, just send an email to lockealderson@gmail.com. I'll be happy to send you the entire slide deck, which has this chart in it. Well, let's take a look at my profile, an older version of that. This is one where it was limited to 120 characters up here, as you see. Again, I've used that pipe character, and if that's one that you use, that's a shift key above the enter key on most keyboards. The different statements that are there. If you do that, you need to have a space on either side of it so that the terms on either side of it are searchable. Otherwise, if they're jammed together, they're not a searchable term on the internet. Again, notice the changes that are there on that. You see this little URL at the bottom. You can evaluate your headline if you go there with your headline. I changed mine when I originally did this. This had ratings of 50 for an overall presentation, 70% for engagement, and 55% for the impression. When I changed to the bottom, just adding more details down here in the description, it went up to 78% for an overall score, 72% for an engagement score, only slightly, but the impression score went up by 76 to 76%. So that's a way to evaluate what you're doing and how your profile is coming across to people. So let's take a look at some more headlines. These are more descriptive and adding adjectives and inviting. Accountant, senior accountant, increasing productivity in highly regulated industries like telecommunication, like telephone companies, or oil and gas companies, electric companies. They have regulations to their industries. Okay, so that's an accountant knows something about those regulations. Others like government accounting, FAR and DAR, some words that were familiar to people with government accounting experience. Product manager, customer relations, helping businesses become more customer-centric and with the goal of increasing sales through customer retention. Again, it costs as much to find new customers as it does to retain. It costs less to retain them than to find new customers. Idle project manager, Scrum and Agile, able to communicate high-tech or explain high-tech to customers. When I was working with Oracle and with Siebel, the technical people we had to be able to explain the product to the customer so they could get a buy-in and get the sale. Business analyst, again, somebody who knows something about data solutions and is able to bridge the gap between techies, those people that do the actual coding perhaps, and the management, the people that make the decisions about it. And then full stack applications developer, again, more descriptive of somebody in their profession. These are other focused headlines. A systems analyst in healthcare that has designed and developed digital indices to reduce hospital admission and paperwork. Anybody who's ever been admitted to a hospital knows what the amount of paper that you have to fill out and the questions you have to answer before they'll take you into the emergency room or into the hospital. And those other descriptions are there. The product manager, partner marketer, again, has Apple and Microsoft Xbox, their video games experience with 20 years. So having had a son my son has worked in the video games industry about 20 years ago, not for 20 years, but he has that kind of experience for a couple of years. But you can see the difference of the different kinds of headlines. Again, if you want the different examples, just send me an email at lockealderson.com. One last verse of scripture before we get into the meat of the presentation. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal, something we can depend on. Why do you want to use open to work? That banner there. Well, if you're looking for a job, you want to let as many people know as you can about your search. And it gives you the opportunity down here to add 5 more job titles that you can add to that in addition to the ones that are up here. So you have a chance to add probably with your headline and your open to work section, you probably have a chance to have at least 10 or 12 different job titles that people can search for about you. And recruiters like to filter. They like to find that low-hanging fruit. I know I was one for 40 plus years. Always look for those who were open to work because you made your contact easier when you made contact with them. Because I've had too many times when I call and ask, we're looking for somebody with your kind of experience as they're interested. But if you knew somebody that was interested, why not contact them first? Okay. The open to work section, when you start to apply it, that's the kind of work you are, where you notice that this has, you can add up to 5 titles. The drop-down list, when I started to add career coach or career counselor, has a list that you can select from. You can just check the boxes and limit them. If the title that you want to add is not in their list, it won't let you add it. What is your status in working? Are you actively applying for jobs, or you're just looking around kicking some tires? Okay. So those are some things that you can do. You can also add locations that you might be interested in for those of you. And are you interested in working at a company's site? You're willing hybrid, part-time at work, at home and part-time at the office, or remote. I know when I went from Siebel, which was in the office, to Oracle, he asked me if I wanted an office at Oracle or I wanted to work from home. A 15-second commute versus a 45-minute commute, pretty easy decision to make on something like that. And increasingly today, companies are going back to requiring workers to come into the office. So again, indicating that you're not interested in on-site, it may be something that might eliminate some jobs for you, but it helps to specify the jobs that you are looking for. Are you using your analytics homepage? Analytics homepage is there. If you click home, you go into analytics and tools. This is the analytics that you can look at. The post impression that you've had in the last week. How many profile views have you had in the last 90 days? How many people have actually taken a look at your profile as opposed to showing up in a search? This is the more important one where this is just take a look, search appearances you've had, something like that. So you can click on any of these and find out how you want to do that. Okay. See what people are looking for when they find something about you. Are you using the featured section to display examples of your work? I just updated this one to show more recent presentations that I've done. What recruiters look for in resumes and avoiding the black hole in resumes and job hunting. Those are some of the things that you can have. You can do presentations that you've made. Jeff might include a book that he's read, although he's included his book in his headline. And Jeff's book is excellent, by the way. If you haven't copy or read it, I've given it to several people as a short, succinct statement of things about your job hunt. Posting that you may have had if you have a portfolio. I know my son is a motion graphics designer. He has his reel. If you're in advertising or public relations, you may have a portfolio that you can show there, where you can show it there. Some people have put their resumes up there. The only danger I see about putting a resume here is it's a static piece of paper. Although you can update it periodically, go in and use the pencil here and click it and then delete that, and then insert a new resume or an updated resume. A resume that's going to be in there can get kind of stale after a while if you haven't touched on it. It may not be tailored to the job that you're looking for when you use the easy apply function. Okay. Move on to your summary. This one I like is a particularly good one. I included because it is very well written. Most of the time you want your sentences to be, or your paragraphs to be 3 or 4 sentences, 3 or 4 lines, and then a new paragraph. This is particularly succinct. It has an email contact info line. It has some use of bold and regular text in it to highlight certain things. It's used an acronym down here at the bottom, FP&A, which most people in financial recruiters for finance and accounting would know what FP&A stands for, or GL or AP or AR. Again, financial planning analysis. If you do use an acronym like that, first time you want to explain what it is, okay? But a good thing on the contact information is there. You should have 4 paragraphs short paragraphs of 3 or 4 lines, maybe 5 lines. Sentences with bullets are okay too to break it up, and can be in the first person as well. You'll look at some of those in the first person. This is ones that are there, and normally first person is, but it can be used and is used increasingly on LinkedIn. This is a good one here. I'm grateful to partner with world-class award-winning companies in executive coaching and leadership development. Has listed some of the companies there and the key competencies that they have. A good short statement for a summary. Mine actually is a pretty long one. If we have time and I could do it with the technology, we may be able to take a look at that. Moving on to the experience section. Again, typically in your experience section, you want to have your job title, the company name, and dates. Again, your duties and responsibilities. Try and limit to 3 to 5 lines. Don't make it too lengthy because it won't get read. You notice here that the Oracle logo is there. If it's a well-known company, LinkedIn will pick up that logo and put it on the page for you. Notice there's 4 lines. I think I've got 3.5 lines here. I've got a couple of highlights there. They're there. Twice selected as recruiter of the quarter, supporting the consulting organization at Oracle Corporation for the most hires in that quarter. Again, volume is something that they look forward to. And the final thing that's included down there is a statement, an email from my former boss, Amanda Gill, Director of Recruiting for Oracle in North America, talking about who I am. But that's this kind of thing that you can do in your experience section. I mentioned the highlights. It's good to have a couple of bulleted highlights for each of your job, particularly the more recent ones, because it adds credibility to what you've done. Somebody else talking about what you've done. Next section we want to talk about is adding additional sections to your resume that you may not have think about what you have in your resume. Those can include having a position if you're not working right now. That's very important because LinkedIn does look for a current position. And if you have until such and such a date, like November of of 2024. Again, people are going to ask, what have you been doing since November? Again, you can add your volunteer experience. My resume was written, my profile was written before you could have a section for your volunteer experience. So my volunteer experience is rolled in my actual work experience. And having a project page that you might have. I know a lot of the resumes when I was Oracle and Siebel were for people with IT consultants. They would put in a page, literally a page for each project that they'd worked on, giving them size and scope, the number of people, the number of languages of code, how long it took, what it involved. Those kind of things were typically a lengthy description because a lot of those people as IT consultants work for consulting firms. And so the consulting firms were interested in what they'd done and who they'd done it for and what was involved. Here's a page for the adding a current position. You notice here, he just put for title of software development, ain't necessarily the title of a given job. He's looking for something full type of employment. He's listed the company instead of a company. He's listed the industry that he might be looking for. Opportunity in the financial services. Could be telecommunications or semiconductors, anything like that, or the industry. As you start to type in location, you notice there's some artificial intelligence here on the drop-down menu. And again, started typing DA for Dallas. Again, there's also a Dallas, Georgia, and a Dallas, Oregon. So you have to fill out the rest of the thing. So click on that. We want to be careful. As I say, if you've been in projects, this is another thing that you can add. As a program manager, I just listed one for when I was a program manager for the Dallas-Fort Worth Staffing Management Association as the program chair to bring in speakers. So that's what you can do in that area as well. You can include the title of the project, its impact and significance, the number of people and the resources, was it completed on time, on budget, or under budget? Things that you can add in the project section. Skills and endorsements are important. I've realized this, you're now going to have up to 100 skills, although I haven't been able to do it on mine. I may not have rolled out the latest version of LinkedIn to me on that. As you start to fill that in, you can just click on these boxes and we'll add those to it. If you try to type in one that is not recognized as a title by LinkedIn, you won't be able to add that. Well, those are one of the things that you can do. Okay. Okay. Moving on, taking a turn of that. How do you go about finding your skills if you don't know? There's a new URL that you can explore, LinkedIn, GitHub, careersexplorer.com. If you type in that URL, it will allow you to explore titles, okay, on your own. The next screen is if you skip ahead, and that's what we're going to do when I'm doing this, it will allow you to list a job title, and it will list the skills that are part of that. Again, those are some of the skills that you can list if you have those skills on your own. They have about 120 different job titles. It's not a comprehensive one, but it shows some of that. And how do you match up against that? As I say, as a project manager or an implementation project manager. There are different kinds of project managers, so it's important to do that. Again, that's here in the slide deck if you want it. And then taking a look at your skills, one further step, are they organized for its maximum impact? And what do I mean by that? You have 100 different ones. Which ones should be on there? Well, if you don't do a selection, LinkedIn's going to shoot. Well, what if they do? So you want to do that. What you can do when you have your skills, you can go to this 3 dot and you click on that. And you can click on that. If you click on that, it allows you to do this. This can reorder your skills and endorsements. You can hold your cursor over the 4 lines to the right, hold down on the cursor and drag and drop those. So if I didn't want executive search as my top one, I could maybe want professional recruiting. Well, I've been a professional recruiter for over 40 years. I didn't get very high rankings in that for some strange reason. Human resources, screening, technical recruiting, executive recruiting and search are things that I got, but you can drag and drop and reorder those. One of the ways that you can refresh your your profile on a regular basis is go in and reorder those. But some of the people I've talked to have skills that are way down at the bottom on their list. They may have 2 or 3 recommendations for those. Okay. Another thing that you want to do is how do you go about optimizing your LinkedIn profile? Well, one of the ways to do it is to do a search for yourself. I put in recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This one was done a couple of years ago. At that time, there were 26,000 people with recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Again, if you are showing up in the first 10 screens, that's 100 thumbnail sketches. You're probably not going to get found by a recruiter looking for a recruiter. Okay, so one of the areas that you could do that is to click open somebody like Christina Tannehill or Renee Lane and find out how have they done that as a recruiter. Well, you notice that she has recruited in a number of places here and are open to work. And that's part of what you're going to do with that. So she can do that. You can copy things that are in somebody else's profile if they apply to you. Don't just plagiarize, but use the stuff that applies to you and incorporate it in your profile and see if it doesn't improve your ranking. Okay. Moving on, let's move on to looking for jobs using LinkedIn. How do we do that? How does LinkedIn actually run a search? It's important to know about that. And then how do recruiters search? There's some differences. And then what are some recruiter results? And then let's go about looking at some actual job searches and filters and job alerts. The things that you can search for in jobs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, what do recruiters really search for? Well, you receive a score for each section of your profile and for your activity on LinkedIn. If you're only on LinkedIn once a week, you get downgraded for that. You may not get highly ranked in that particular section. Your ranking in searches is a score based on the sum of these values. The higher scores appear at the top of the list based on the being sought. That's a mouthful to say, but basically what you want to do is to get the top of each of the categories that's on your score. And you want to do, the way that you could do that is to complete each section having a complete profile. Recruiters generally look for a match, and contrary to what the recruiter, the profile, the person speaking on LinkedIn says last week, she didn't mention job title. I think that's the first thing that I look for as a recruiter, is the titles, your current past jobs, your headline, your open to work section, your about section, and employment. The more times that you can talk about things that you have done, the more likely that it's going to go to the top ranking and when somebody searches for that. I know when I ran a job ad, when I was made the move from Siebel to Oracle Corporation, we were still hiring Siebel consultants. I was looking for one in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and ran a posting up there. Got 75 responses. 50 of those didn't even have the word Siebel in their resume. Those people immediately went into the second stack to only be looked at if I couldn't find somebody in the first stack. Well, the next 25, did they use the word Siebel once, or did they use it more times than that? Once they've used Siebel as a software product, 10 times they may have been the person I was looking for that actually installed Siebel as a software product. Once they've done that, they'll look at keywords and skills. And we'll see that when we take a look at the screen that somebody can use to input data. In specific companies. If somebody's worked in healthcare and if somebody's looking for somebody in healthcare, they typically look at other people in healthcare. They may look on geographic region. Technology companies often look for technology people, although that's since diversified with some of the downturns in the industries of late. Recruiters look for candidates who've done the job before. So they search on specific titles. Again, they'll also look for location. They'll also look for education. And another thing they look for, and current and prior employers, some people think in pedigree. What's your pedigree? Who are the companies that you work for? Are they Fortune 500 companies? I interviewed with a company here in Dallas, and they were looking for somebody who had an MBA from one of the top 10 business schools in the country. Well, if you happen to glance at mine, I have an MBA from the University of California, Berkeley. And depending upon whose list and ranking you're looking at, Cal Berkeley is one of those in the top 10. And then after they've done all those things, and it doesn't take much work to do that, and recruiters look at your summary and your experience. So let's take a look at an input screen. This is one I got from Kurt Vandewater's presentation. He uses the recruiter package software license from LinkedIn. He pays about $10,000 a year for each license. It allows him to search worldwide for candidates on LinkedIn. There is another recruiter package called Recruiter Lite. Another friend that uses that. That's only $5,000 a year for a seat. But it allows to search for people. And this is the screen that they have to start with. Again, he has about three of these screens like that. And they can look for things like job titles, location, skills, companies, schools. Here's a graduation, industries. Again, they could do that to look for somebody that has maybe 5 years of experience to do that. Military veterans for some jobs. I know as a recruiter, I had to recruit. One of the recruiting assignments, the unusual one, was looking for a Navy steward for a company who was looking for an executive chef. And they wanted somebody who'd had Navy steward chef experience, had cooked meals for people on board ships. So what does a recruiter actually look for? This is the result of a recruiter search for a product manager. And this job was located in the greater Seattle area, is where they preferred. They would consider somebody from down in San Francisco. Notice that there were about 6,900 candidates in the pool. 2,500 have followed or up on that company, and there were 462 that actually followed the brand. And those are things that you can do when you look at a company. Again, the location, the title, the location was in Seattle. The skills were product marketing and product management. Those two are often interchangeable, and they're looking for somebody with competitive analysis. They also wanted somebody would prefer somebody from Amazon, Microsoft, or Fluke. Those are all corporations headquartered up in the Seattle area. And of course, they tossed in a school, University of Washington is there in Seattle. But that's one of the things that they have. That's just a typical search of what it looks like when a recruiter pulls up your search. Notice there's 3 lines there: the past and what they've done, their education. So that's what a recruiter actually sees when they pull something like you up. The thumbnail sketches there. And today they're even more microscopic than that. Let's take a look at the next one. This was for a program manager in Chicago. Okay, notice up there, and that pool of candidates was about 43,000 candidates, but only 83 of them were actually looking for job opportunities at the time. This was when the economy was good and jobs were hard to fill for companies. So full employment such situation. That job in greater Chicago, they're looking for somebody with a business strategy background as a program manager. And analytics, knew something about that, like analysis and corporate development. Those are all keywords and skill sets that they were looking for. And of course, Northwestern is in just north of Chicago, and some companies that they work with, high-tech companies like Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So searching for jobs, you can do it 2 ways. One, you can use the search box on top of, when you first open up your LinkedIn screen, or there's a tab over here called Job. Okay. When you use the Jobs tab, you're looking for jobs, it has two boxes. There's a search for jobs, you can search for companies, or location, and location there. If you just insert people in this box, your job title, and don't fill a location, and you haven't done a search previously, again, it's going to open up the search for the United States. So you want to enter in a location as well on the search. But you can also search for things like keywords, job titles, companies, locations, functions, okay, experience level, and data posted. And we'll show you some of those that you can use with filters. But let's take a look at some actual search results that I've conducted over the years. This one for a sales rep, again, because I didn't type in something that it defaults to the United States. And that gave the pool that I was looking at about almost 200,000 candidates. Any good recruiter is going to eliminate that and narrow it down in a hurry to something like maybe 50 to 100 candidates that they're looking for. And those tabs that you see, those filters there across the top, we'll take a look at those in a minute. But you notice that that's one of the things I mentioned, because if you don't add a location, you're going to do that. The next one down in Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas. Again, that particular job, and I had used any of these other filters, that for that senior accountant brought 144 responses, a pretty good response rate. The actual job titles are over here on the right, as you can see. I did a search with doing a presentation to the American Quality Management Association here in Dallas, their monthly meeting, and I put in quality assurance. Now, quality assurance is going to pick up a lot of different things, but it had almost 2,000 candidates in that pool. One of the things we were looking for, since it was managers and senior technical people, we refined the search and added another word like that, manager. It took it from almost 2,000 down to 174. That's without any other filters, but I added one other filter there, and that's in the past week. For most of you, and most of your searching, you want to limit it to the past week, because jobs tend to get filled quickly. If you have experience in an unusual profession, environmental health and safety engineer, I worked with one like that. He was from Arkansas. We could only find 3 or 4 jobs in the state of Arkansas. We opened it up to the states surrounding Arkansas, like Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana, and we're able to find a few more jobs for him. But again, he would go out for 30 days or maybe even 90 days on his term like that. But that narrowed it down for the recruiter or you for finding a job. This one was for an executive assistant, again, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Notice the Dallas, Allen County, Pennsylvania. There's a Dallas, Georgia, and there was also a Dallas, Oregon. So Florida, unless you fill that in, it will choose it for you, okay? But there were 26,000, I put a date in there that I think there were 960 results. There must have been some other filter on in that case, because when I did that search originally, there were about 40,000 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Again, these are the filters. This is an older screenshot, but it has it all on one page. Now, when you do your filters, they're down the right third of the page, and you only get a couple per page, or a couple per screen. Notice you can look at the job type. Most jobs on most of the job boards are going to be permanent full-time. But occasionally, if somebody's looking for a temp position or looking for volunteer work, or they're looking for contract jobs. I know as a recruiter, I had several contract assignments over the years. Again, I limited. The original search had almost 2,100 jobs. In the past week, that narrowed it down by almost 2/3, a little over 2/3, as a matter of fact. Something that LinkedIn has picked up from Indeed.com is a salary estimator, so that their salary estimates. So we're looking for a job over 120K, narrows the pool down to about 48 jobs. And again, you can search by industry, medical, hospital, information technology, staffing, and recruiting, and health and wellness. Notice a lot of these are in the medical, hospital, health information area. Can list by company. Deloitte had looked for a lot of people. HCA Healthcare, that's Medical City for those of you not quite. Medical City Healthcare is another one that's there. Again, this is the corporate. This is for one of the local hospitals. And you can look by location. If I were looking for Plano, I might not be willing to go over to Irving for a job. Okay, and the jobs like that. So those are the filters that you can actually choose from those. And if you find that you too narrow, you can go up and cancel the search, or cancel it clear, and it will take you back to your original search. This is for creating job alerts. If you don't want to have to enter in every time you're searching for the same kind of jobs all the time. This is one for recruiter in Plano, Texas, within 25 miles. You can turn on a job alert. It gives you that option to turn on a job alert. By clicking on the radio button and moving it to the right, you have the option of having those come in daily or weekly. They usually come in between 7 and 8 in the morning. I still get some of those because I've helped people look for jobs. I still get the searches for them and their results. I know I worked with somebody in Ashland, Oregon last summer on vacation and helped them show them how to find jobs on LinkedIn. And we looked for healthcare professionals in Ashland, Oregon. And there weren't as many there, but some of those are remote jobs. And you can turn that off and on. Okay. Wrapping up, and we'll open it up and try to look at some people. And one of the things you want to complete all the sections of your profile to increase your ranking and searches. And use the name that you normally use. I use my middle name, Locke Alderson. Again, my legal name is John Locke Alderson Jr. So occasionally when the telemarketers call and say, may I speak to John Alderson, I ask them which one, junior, senior, or the third. And always confuses them. And I say, they ask for senior. I say, well, unfortunately, he passed away about 20 years ago. So anyway, have that headline, the job title or titles that you're looking for. And if you don't put a headline in, just as a reminder, LinkedIn will choose one for you. It's the title of your last job in your employment section. The open to work allows you to add 5 additional job titles. And recruiters know that you're open to opportunities. Again, if you're in a stealth mode, you may limit your search to recruiters with the software license that LinkedIn sells. Experience section, you have your job titles, your duties, and measurable results. It's important to add credibility to your experience, and they do. Also, you can add other things like that in terms of the achievements. Keywords and skills from your profession. I showed you how to do that with a chart. And people do a people search in your geographic area. And if you're not showing up in the first 10 screens, again, go ahead and take a look at some of those people and see what they're saying in their profile. And you can use it for yourself. Okay. Now, if I'm going to switch gears.
Locke, we do have a question. Jody asked, when I put DFW area, I am getting jobs that are on the opposite side of the city. Is there a way that I can break this down to specific areas of the metro?
Yes, you can. I mentioned that before. We'll try and to do that. But again, one of the things that you're wanting to do Jeff, I'm having problems again, so
You need to do the square right there. There you go.
is that up now?
Yep, you're good.
I'm good. One of the things that you could do that for locations is, I noticed one of the filters, you can look at the filters down at the bottom by location. And you can choose that, or you could put a location at the top. And you could choose, I know one of the things up there on the search filters is the distance from your location. Most people don't want to drive more than 25 miles to work, so recruiters and job boards have found that's the default setting. But on LinkedIn, used to be that you could lower it to 15. I think they dropped it to 10 now, or 5. I had a candidate when I was with Lee Heck Harrison, only wanted to work 5 miles from home. So we looked at, she lived in Frisco, well, there are a lot of jobs in Frisco for somebody with an executive assistant position. So that's a way that you can address that thing that you're looking for. Okay.
All right, there's another question here from Rava saying, if I follow a company on LinkedIn, will everybody know about it or only the employee recruiters of that company?
No, you're following a company, nobody knows you necessarily by name. It's just aggregated into a list of people that are following. Okay, that answer the question?
Yep.
Jeff, let's see if somebody wants to have us look at their job profile or their search.
So if you want us to look at your profile, just give us your name, or if you want us to look for a specific job, we'll do that. Okay, Jody wants us to look at her profile. So
Last name, Jody.
no, just J-O,
Yep.
capital D-E-E, Lance, that very first one.
Okay. Jeff, I'm having trouble with LinkedIn.
It won't click on you.
It
All
won't
right,
click
I'll
on.
share my screen. I'll do it.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Will I have to stop sharing?
Nope, I've got it.
Okay. You got it, Jeff, or do I?
Yep, it's up.
Okay.
Can you see it?
No, I can't see it. So,
All right. Well, number one, good. You've got something other than the generic banner behind your face, which is wonderful to have. She's got several job titles here: talent development leader, AI enthusiast, program management. I would change from program management to program manager, because you want to have job titles up here, because this is the most searched field on LinkedIn. Facilitator, communicator, achieves goal, creates culture.
achieve goals, I would change that to enjoy world traveling. Those are all nice and personal, but I would pack your headline with as many job titles you have. You can add titles with that. You know, what have you done? Successful program manager. Okay. But add some other titles with that. Okay. You haven't used the about to work, so I don't know whether you're looking for that specifically or not. Or you're in stealth mode, Jody. Again, but that allows you to add another 5 job titles, and if you're open to relocation, that's where you can tell people about it.
Okay, under her about section, I would cut this paragraph down to just 3 sentences,
3 to 4 lines max.
3 to 4 lines. When you get over 4 lines, people just tend not to read it because it's too much text. Like this, what I do, my approach yeah, there's down to 4 lines. And then you've got a call to action, which is great.
As I said, Jody, I like that at the top. You can have it there, but I'd also put it at the top because when people look at your profile, they only see the first couple of lines.
Yeah, if they don't say see more, but everybody out there, you want to make sure that you've got an email and a phone number if you can, because recruiters, all they want to do is pick up the phone and call you first, or second option, they'll send you an email. They do not want to use LinkedIn InMail to try to reach out to you. They want to try to reach you directly. All right.
Got a good featured section. There's something, a nice personality there. Okay. Activity level, posts and comments. Notice how they've included the logo for Southwest Airlines and yellow freight down there. And a couple of her jobs, because she's had several jobs and are listed together, they're linked there. She's had a break and they're linked together on the left-hand side with the arrow, the lines there. Scroll on down, Jeff, and let's look at her skills because that's an area. Okay. Notice she's had a number of experiences. It shows 17 other experiences that you could look at on her profile. She's got a volunteer section that's good, that's there. Your skills are AI and professional networking. I would choose not to have professional networking. I would choose another skill out of the 55 that you have there. She's got a couple of recommendations. If you have more recent ones, it's a good idea to have a couple as recently as you can for those.
Even if that's coming from volunteer, because I've been unemployed for so long, or
Yeah, you want to, yeah. That's why I
okay.
have my volunteer experience and my professional employment, because they're all together, shows a continuity in there.
Okay.
Hey, Jody.
That's why I don't have a separate section for
Yeah, Jody,
volunteer experience.
I write mine and send it to people. I just write one, say, hey, feel free to, but it's 85% done, and then they happen quicker.
Yeah.
And I don't have any updated recently because this is something I just started doing this week, interestingly enough, Jody.
Thank you. Good tip.
It's a good idea to have particularly for your most recent experience, to have a couple. Yeah, I know I'm working with a candidate now. I meet him tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, and I've got a recommendation for him. I can't give it to him because he doesn't have some experience where we're linked together, and that is volunteer experience for me and for him, where we've been in a group.
All right, let's see here. I've got another profile. Let me click on this one.
Thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
So Nikki's gone through the process of verifying her application or her profile, which is great. Good picture, nice background that makes it easy for somebody to just pick up the phone and call her if you're looking for an operation manager.
I would use, Nikki, rather than chief of staff level position, what are some of the other job titles that you look for? When you search for a job, what are some of the titles that you look for? And as you sometimes look for a job on LinkedIn, you may search for one thing. The title of the job that pops up is not that, but that title is buried somewhere in the text of that job posting. So use the titles that are in the job postings that you're looking for, because that's what recruiters look for.
Right. You've got the open work on here so we can see titles that you're looking for. Let's see here, contact information. Because we're not connected, I can see your email address, which is great. So you've allowed anybody to view that, which is wonderful. But in most cases,
recruiters pick up the phone to call you. And if
they're going to go right here, the first line of your doc section. I like that. Greatest hits. That's a good, I like,
That's a good way to phrase that. That's the first time I've seen that, but it's an excellent way to phrase that. This is where you can choose some of the other personal information rather than plugging it into your headline. I plug it down here in your about section. Use that space in your about section in your headline section for your job titles. The picture in your feature section is good. It calls attention to you. One of the things I would ask about your experience at UPS, what were some of the things that you accomplished? When you go home at night and you talk to somebody, a friend, partner, what did you accomplish in that day? What are you proud of from what you did? Again, otherwise it's just a lot of verbiage. And you can highlight some of those with bullets and break up the textual information. It's a good idea, even though you've used 2 and 3 lines or 4 lines max. Again, break it up with some bullets. What were some of the accomplishments into each of those areas?
and you've done a good job putting results in here. So, you know, you're
Highlight some of them using a bullet, and it will
Yeah.
help just look like text.
you know, giving us some results, which is great.
Yeah.
So you added section you published. So you added a section here about what you published, which is great. License and certificates, projects. So here you've gone into the project section to give us more detail, which is wonderful.
One thing I didn't mention, Jeff, for looking for jobs. When you're looking for jobs, there's an arrow when you do the jobs tab and it opens up. There's some other sections that you can look at. One of those sections is groups. And within the group section, people in groups can post jobs in the group section without paying the fee to LinkedIn for job posting. So there are some jobs in your profession that are maybe in the groups that you have. And you can look in, I think I'm a member of 50 different groups. We have skills for Nikki.
Yes, lean process improvement and leadership and team management.
I would choose another one rather than leadership and team management. What is one of those skills that you have that you can actually show results for? Remember, she has 100 skills listed. So which ones do you want to choose? If you don't choose one, two, Link's going to choose for some for you. Problem solving, or see, a lot of those are there. There's nothing wrong with those, but again, what are the 2 most important skills that you bring to a company? Those are the 2 skills that you probably want to have at the top of your list.
Okay. All right, well, Locke, we're at the top of the hour here, so.
Again, I ran long again, Jeff. I never know.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead.
Open to work, when I turned it off, I stopped getting all the spam in mail.
Yeah.
And I would like to know, is it okay to put it in someplace in my background up there, open to work?
Yeah.
Okay, without using the banner?
You can put it in your headline if you're open to work or open to relocation. Those are some things that you can do. You won't get all the stuff. But again, getting all those emails, you can probably sort through a lot of those things within, a couple of minutes when you look at your email. I know I look at my LinkedIn probably a couple of times a day.
I do too, and it seems like I spend more time getting rid of those emails than anything else.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate you answering that question, Locke.
Anybody that wants a copy of the slide deck, just send me an email, lockealderson@gmail.com. Be happy to send it to you.
Yep, there's Locke's email address, and you can do that, and he'll be glad to send you that deck. Locke, thank you very much for your time. Next week, Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about LinkedIn's tools for job seekers. Ruth is works with job seekers on a daily basis for Lee Erickson. So
She's a great speaker, great motivator. I know she was my mentor when I was at Lee Harrison. So she's great.
Yeah, so it'll be a really good presentation next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training a couple days a week. Tomorrow, the practice interview team will be meeting in person. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please come join them at Christ United Methodist Church in Plano at the corner of Coit and Parker. The first, second, third, and fifth Wednesdays of the month, they meet in person. On the fourth Wednesday of the month, they do meet online for those people who live outside the area. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, we've got a great speaker. His name is Jay Barbetter. He's going to talk about networking the old-fashioned way. Jay has been in business for many years, and he'll share some of the stories of people he networked, some very much by mistake. So if you can come join us 9:30 this Friday morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We also meet at Christ United Methodist Church at the corner of Parker and Coit in Plano, and we will be on Zoom. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups. You can join both. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group, but I will look at your profile. And if your profile is not mostly complete, I'll probably skip you from joining, because if you're on LinkedIn, you want to be found. And how you're going to be found? You're only going to be found if you have a fairly complete profile. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel to view in the future. If you want, please subscribe to it on the Career USA YouTube channel. This video will be up there later tonight. It takes a few hours for LinkedIn to do it. Go to Career USA on YouTube, click on playlist. Every video I put up there goes into a different list. Today's for LinkedIn. Don't click on the video, but there at the very bottom, we see that red arrow, view full playlist. If you click on that, up will come a list of all the titles and topics and dates that people have spoken. You can go back and watch any video that you want at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, please join the Career USA mailing list. You can just scan this QR code and just send a blank email, or just send a blank email to Career USA, +, subscribe at groups.io. You never be spammed from it because I control the list, but you will find out about our workshops as events are coming up. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. Locke is a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Have a great Tuesday.
Thank you, Locke and Jeff.
Have a good week.